Welcome to Let's See Graham University, our first official presentation that's going to be on how to write targeted resumes, including keywords. And one of the reasons why you have this presentation in the first place for you writers is because your clients are going to ask you about it, and probably a lot. And just important, it's really important to realize that having a resume that captures some of the potential keywords that recruiters are using to search for these candidates is going to be incredibly important. So you're going to need to know how to write a resume in such a way that's targeted and captures keywords. So in this presentation, I ended up training Ashley on how to extract job postings for certain keywords and integrating them within the resume. I hope you enjoy this presentation, and please also use the text below this video to go ahead and supplement yourself in terms of training. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to watch the entire thing. Stuff's going to be on the quiz, and enjoy. So really, when it comes down to it, we want you guys to know how to create content that is going to be captivating for recruiters. So like-style resumes are two-part. First is targeted to where the job seeker is applying, and the second is accomplishment-based. So you're going to hear a lot of the times from your job seekers, they'll be freaking out about keywords, ATS, which stands for Applicant Tracking Systems. And it's software that recruiters can use to filter out candidates based on essentially what's on their resumes or what they include in their application. So part of that is just being targeted for the job you're applying for, which we're going to touch in the first part of this presentation. And we try to be accomplishment based because we want to put our client's best foot forward. So we'll be going over that as well. So for our agenda, we're going to go first over how to create targeted resumes. We're going to take a brain break because there's there's really a lot to take in. So I want us to just get up, drink some water, whatever, because we're going to delve right into accomplishment-based resumes after that. So being targeted, and we'll talk about keywords here, and do they stop you from getting interviews? So the first part of this presentation, we're going to be talking about what keywords are. The second thing is how to identify them. And the third is how to use them when we're crafting our resumes. Now, Ashley, I would like to hear from you because I think the best way to learn is to keep our own context in mind, to be thinking about ourselves. So let's say theoretically you were to leave your job and apply for a new one. Tell me what your industry is and your targeted position title that you'd be going for.
My industry is the labor movement. I work specifically in communications. So
Okay.
I was looking for digital communications positions.
Okay, digital communications position. Can we get a little bit more specific and ask you what position title you'd be going for?
Probably digital comms specialist.
Okay, specialist. So already you've done the hard work in identifying potential keywords that somebody could use to find a person like you. So it'd be digital communications and specialist. And you'll see in a little bit why I got so specific when I asked you that question. Now on to the material. I want to make this as simple to describe as possible. Keywords are just a way for people to identify better matches. It's a phrase or a word that a recruiter can select to identify better matches for a job. So it's just like if you were to Google Mexican restaurants in New York City. So you'd filter out all the other restaurants that weren't Mexican through that keyword search, and it would be in New York City. You filter out every other city there. Now I know Google normally does like a location specific, like they can detect where you are, like where your laptop is. So the New York may not even be necessary, but it is a way of being more specific. Always ask yourself, what keywords will my prospective employer use to search for me? So that's a question that I like us writers to keep in the back of our minds as we're crafting resumes for our clients. Quiz for you, Ashley. What do you think? Do you think that I'll let you just read over that. I'm not going to read over it. You tell me which one you think is the correct answer in terms of keywords.
Okay. Is it going to be on your screen? Where is this?
It is. It's on the screen. You should be able to
No,
see the screen.
not seeing it. All I'm seeing is Leg University.
Oh, strange. Wow, the entire presentation hasn't been showing the entire time.
That's accurate.
I've just been
But
showing.
I was looking at the slides on the left-hand side, which is showing there.
I've been showing myself slides, and that's fine.
All right. Okay, ATS software. There's a surefire way of knowing what keywords that a recruiter is using that doesn't involve asking the recruiter. It's a guessing game and impossible to know what they're using. It's a guessing game and one can optimize their resume using some research and a targeted approach. I'm going to go ahead and go with C.
And let's see if you pass the test. It's a guessing game, correct. And you can use, you can actually use it to your advantage. And we'll go over that in a little bit. But the reasons why keywords are so important when it comes to the job search is it's just part of that game. And there is actually a very high percentage of recruiters that use keywords in their searches. Anyone knows this if they've tried to find the ideal candidate. I think I saw a survey somewhere that said that at least 90% of large companies use ATS software to filter out candidates. So that's why it's important. That's why there's a whole presentation around it. This is a screenshot of Bullhorn. Now that you can actually see the screen. This is actually one of the most popular services out there for filtering out candidates. But in a search, so say they got thousands and thousands of applicants, a person can pull up a query and type in these keywords. So they typed in accounting, accountant, and accounts. They even give additional keywords that they'd recommend searching. So what this will actually do is pull into the resumes and see if these words are popping up. Any questions so far?
No.
Cool. So hot tip number one is know common sources for keywords. So know exactly what types of keywords to include in the resume. So what I'm going to ask you here is, out of all these types of keywords that can be used, which one do you think is the most commonly used type of keyword?
I'm gonna go with soft skills and or position titles.
So soft skills is your number one?
That's up there. I'm gonna go with soft skills or position title.
Okay, position title number one. Okay, what do you think is the least common source of a keyword? This is what recruiters are physically typing into their ATS.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go with employer names.
Employer names, okay.
Can you pull your screen down just a little bit? No, like on this. Yeah, drag it. Your visual. Nope. You
Other way?
yourself. The video. Oh, wait.
Oh,
No.
I forgot.
Here we go. Gotcha. Okay. I'm moving you.
Okay.
Okay.
So you said employer names. And I will tell you right now that you're not too far off. In fact, position title was, in fact, the most commonly used keyword. Granted, this is a survey that was sent to hundreds of recruiters. I do think it gives a good representation of what people actually are searching. This isn't like meant to be like the end-all survey, but I think it's good. 80% of recruiters said they ended up using position title as a keyword search. and employer names actually was somewhat high at 55%. So degrees, soft skills, and certifications ended up being last. And that doesn't surprise me too much about soft skills because I'm like hard worker, like honest. I don't know. I just can't imagine people searching that if they're trying to filter out hundreds and hundreds of candidates. Right. So, and it really does make sense to actually look at position title, because you want to filter out, you want to get people who have had the experience before in the past that have that type of thing on their resume. So that brings me to hot tip number 2, which is to be position oriented. So that's why I asked you earlier. I'm like, don't just tell me that you're exactly. So you said specialist. So for me, that's something that I would try my best to include on the resume, even if necessarily you didn't have a specialist there. I mean, there are kind of some good ways you can include it without being completely dishonest. We'll go into that. That's another part of the presentation, but it's all part of the game. So retail banking manager, information security analyst, high school mathematics teacher. So be specific. Now, this was actually went to Indeed gave like a webinar on how it was like meant for recruiters and how they can use their database to find the right people. And it was funny because they did a query where they actually looked for registered nurses within the pediatric field there. So they typed in registered nurse pediatric, and Indeed's searches always include location in their query. So that's why I say location is such an important thing to include in the resume. If you're not including that, then it can work against you. So this was a list of the top 5 people that came up whenever they searched for registered nurse pediatric. It's just the way the person typed it in Chicago. And when you actually pull into one of the resumes, this is formatted the Indeed way. It actually highlights all the keywords that were searched. But where do you look to find keywords? So I always say look first at the job posting. So your clients are always going to give you job postings within the questionnaire. So that's why I think it's incredibly important to actually look over where the client is applying and come up with a list of 7 or 8 keywords that you think might be searched. If there is no job posting, or if you need to be more generic, there's a great website called onetonline.org. And what it is it's basically, I'll just show you. Can you still see my screen? Okay, good. So this is what a lot of HR professionals will use to actually craft job descriptions. So you can look up almost any position. So let's type in high school mathematics teacher. So it'll give you like a list of all the different types of positions. So I'll select this one, secondary school teachers. And here you can see all the list of tasks like technology skills, knowledge. All these are potential keywords that could be useful. It's a good resource. I'd say look first of all at the job posting, but this is a good secondary. Oh, of course. So we're going to look at an advertised job description, and I'm going to have you select what you think potential keywords might be.
Okay.
I'll give you a second to look over it.
Okay.
All right, give it to me.
Let's see, I guess property law. So you want me to pull keywords from that?
Yeah, just start throwing out what you think good keywords might be.
Okay, international law associate. So
Okay.
antitrust
Okay.
practice. And then I guess business and healthcare.
Okay, business and healthcare.
Yeah.
All right, very good. In the example of the textbook, they pulled out associate, antitrust, partner, and Washington, D.C. So you did good. I would recommend actually looking at city because a lot of the times it's a common source.
Yeah.
So, but as you can see, they looked at the position title, which is associate, antitrust, which is a noun common to the position, and partners related, and DC. So very good.
Ah.
All right, another one.
Okay.
Start calling them out.
Let's okay, so architect.
Okay. That's a good one.
Jacksonville, Florida.
Boom. Now you know.
Right. I guess commercial, industrial.
Yeah, maybe commercial industrial.
Yeah.
Just that word. Those words. Okay.
Maybe progressive. I don't know.
Let's see. Construction, engineering, architect. That's good. Commercial industrial. Got that. Jacksonville. So you nailed that. I would just add construction and engineering as possible keywords. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. And I already showed you the math example, but basically you can look up any position on ONET online was the whole point of this slide. Don't even know if I need this slide for the future presentation.
but we'll work it out.
We'll work it out. Cool. Any questions so far?
No.
This is where the craft of resume writing comes into play. But you know the keywords. You wrote down a list of 7 or 8 that you think are perfect for your clients. How do you actually integrate them into the resume? So these are all possibilities in which to include them. And I just want to emphasize that it's not necessarily about keywords. It's just about being targeted for where you're applying. So these are all sections within a resume that you can include them. Summary of qualifications, accomplishments, work experiences, a skill section, contact information, and even the file name. So that's usually one that surprises people, but actually changing the file name to anything but just resume can actually help you.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. So looking at an example of, this is the first example where we determined that keywords might be attorney, JD, antitrust, partner in Washington, D.C. So we went ahead and crafted a leading sentence for a summary of qualifications, which is what would be at the very top of the resume. So seasoned attorney with 10 plus years of experience serving Washington, D.C. clients in the antitrust discipline. So already within one sentence of the resume, we already included attorney, Washington, D.C., and antitrust. Boom. I'm going to send an article about how to write a good summary, but essentially a summary of qualifications is a way of showcasing your best accomplishments within a few sentences, or showcasing why you're qualified within a few sentences. Another way to integrate is by including them within an accomplishment or work experience. So I never say keyword stuff, but if you could do it, if you can include keywords in a way that is meaningful, I'd say go for it. So I took a typical bullet point, developed over 10 different software programs that reduce user time by at least 25% to product development, and then include the rest of that bullet point. So let me see if I can find an example of a client I worked with.
see. Matt Fitch. Okay. Can you see my screen still?
Yes.
Perfect. So this is a client I wrote for named Matt Fitch. Ended up getting a job after using this. I don't like to brag, but I think it was the resume. So the keywords we determined for him were trade support, because he was applying for trade support positions, troubleshooting, and systems monitoring. So literally just took the 3 bullet points that I wrote for him and included those things. So they're organized in such a way that was targeted.
Right.
There's trade support again. And you don't have to do it for necessarily every one, but I included it for most of his sections. And then this is the summary of qualifications that I wrote for him. Financial services, that's one of them. Trade support's up here. Research, financial services, boom. So, file name. So, believe it or not, file name could actually work for you. So most people submit their resumes as like John Smith resume, but I recommend going one step further and including the actual position title. This isn't even my idea. Like, this is straight from this lady that's been doing this for decades and decades of years. And I'm like, listen, if it's anything that can help people get jobs, I'll use it.
Right.
So it's also just shows the company that you're kind of going one step further, not just submitting a generic resume. So I recommend including that. So hot tip number 4, always be forward looking. So I tell people, look to match with the position you're trying to fill, not necessarily past experiences. And this is really a tough one for a lot of people to grasp, because isn't a resume just a list of all your past experiences? I say not necessarily. I say it should be accurate, but it's also a marketing piece to show why you're qualified for the position you're applying for in the future. So an example of people who may not have experiences necessarily, but want to include on the resume, might be a student or somebody transitioning from one position to another. So any questions on that? I know that's kind of a strange one.
No.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, a way you can include that, like, so if you're a student, you can always include something like the courses you've taken in the past. I'm not going to knock a resume that includes that. That's a good way to include keywords. There is such thing as taking this too far. Now, with your newfound power, there comes responsibility not to abuse that power. So, I say don't exaggerate your client's past performances. I mean, it is marketing, so you want to put them in the best possible light. But at the same time, you don't want to put them in a position to where they're interviewed, they're asked about something, and they just they can't back it up with, a good response. So.
Right.
So that's why I like to use the consultations as a time to ask them questions and to get a good sense of that type of thing. So what kind of dog is that?
She's a Jack Russell Chihuahua.
Oh, I knew it. I knew that Chihuahua bark.
Come on. She was like begging to go outside, and now it's just being.
I love dogs. So,
sorry.
So yeah, no exaggerating past performances, and try not to keyword stuff. Eventually somebody's going to look at the resume. So that's not a keyword dump per se. So don't write for the robot. Make sure there is human appeal, and recognize that, keywords open the door, but a quality resume is really what's going to allow you to walk through that door. So I like to think of like a spam email. So say you get an email with a really good subject line that gets you to open it, but you open it and it's something that you didn't expect. So don't be the spam email of job seekers. I guess the whole point of that bullet there. So yeah. Some words of encouragement, and this really is for your clients to realize, because a lot of the times our clients are super frustrated. They've been in the job search, they're not getting responses. So just encouraging them and letting them know that it does take time. The job search can take at least 20 weeks. If you're applying for like VP level, C-suite level positions, it could take even longer. So I like to give people encouragement that way. Also, 2% of resumes, especially submitted to these systems, actually get interviews. So that can be a really daunting statistic for a lot of people. But I think people need to realize not to just sit back and, apply on Indeed.com and all these other websites. They need to actually get out there and network. Like the best positions out there are, through networking. So encourage your clients to do that. And persistence is key. We had a client who was living in New York. He said he had made applying for a job like a full-time position. And he said he submitted his resume like 1,000 times. But 1,001 ended up being his dream job. I kid you not. And he rewrote his resume and he ended up getting a really nice high-paying job in New York after applying. So the reason I have this is because, like I said, our clients can be really frustrated sometimes. And also, they may try to pin it on you to be like, okay, you're my magic solution to get me interviews. And that's not necessarily the case. Like, we're giving them the tool, but it's up to them to use the tool in the best possible way.